Alright, g'day guys, and welcome back to week 3 of our Little Cup run here in the APA Little Cup Wi-Fi League. Today we are playing Tony and his Austin APOMs. Unfortunately there's no team builder section of the video today. Just was a bit short on time with long weekend festivities and all that. But I will give you a quick rundown of the team. You can see the 6 that we're bringing on the screen. We're bringing Wimpod, which is a pretty standard Wimpod set. It's got the spikes, the taunt, scald, and I'm pretty sure Jet was our last move, or it might have been Leech Life to get a bit of damage on that Shellos. I can't quite remember. We've got the Dodo, which is a choice Scarf variant. Scarf Dodo means that it outpaces his entire team apart from the drill in the sand, which is very nice. His team does not have a flying resist, so Dodo should be able to put in a ton of work. We've got Drowsy, very Spadef Drowsy, meant to take on some of his, well, basically it can blanket check most of his special attackers. Not that he has too many, but I mean Wish Pass is also always nice. I think we've packed in Drain Punch on there just to try and catch that Alola yeah, it's a pretty standard Drowsy set. We have a Stealth Rocks 3 attack Sandygast. Very bulky. This is our Drilbur check. This is our Hippo check. What works really nicely is because this is our Drilbur check, and that's the and Drilbur's his only removal this week, it means that he will get spin blocked 100% of the time. And even with like Ground Z and things like that, Sandygast can still check that thing very reliably by clicking Giga Drain, which is phenomenal. We have Rowlet here, as we mentioned before. He has no flying resist, so bringing double flyers was more than okay this week. Rowlet was supposed to be a Fly Z variant, but I went to load up the battle and realized I hadn't gone and got Fly Z yet, so we are rocking out with a itemless Rowlet this week, rocking the SD, Brave Bird, Roost, and I think Sucker Punch was my last move. Yeah, Sucker Punch. And then last but not least, we have a sort of a supportive Cutie Fly. Like, he didn't have... His resist to Moonblast was the Larvestra, and I was never staying in on that thing, so we're rocking with Moonblast, Moonblast Toxic, Sticky Webs, and I cannot for the life of me remember our last move. But looking at his team, the biggest threat to us is, of course, that Alola Rat. That thing is very scary. We don't really have the best counterplay to it. Obviously, Cutie Fly resists the dark moves, and Sandygast is immune to the normal moves, but playing around that is very scary. Hustle Sucker Punches, Hustle Crunches, Double Edges, whatever he wants to go with, hit very hard, and is tough for our team to switch into. Drill, really can't let that thing, like, in the sand is very scary. We do have a Sandygast as a check to it, but if he can pivot around that thing nicely and weaken it, then it could cause a lot of trouble for us. But without further ado, let's get into the battle. Apologies if there's any quality issues. I am actually recording this battle for myself for the first time, so we'll see together how well this goes. So yeah, with that, let's get into it. And so, as you can see, the 6 he brought, I am going to lead off. Well, I expected him to either want to lead off with Shelmet or, as you can see, Larvesta for the momentum, and I decided to lead with Streamline our Wimpod because that gave us the best matchup overall. And he's going to switch straight out. He doesn't want any of this, any catching any Scalds. He goes into his Shellos as I decide to get up a layer of Spikes. Knowing that he won't be able to remove anything this game, Spikes is phenomenal against him. And then I decide to click Toxic, because, yeah, that's right, Toxic was my last move on this thing. Shellos is very annoying. He doesn't have any Clerics on his team, so getting this thing Toxic, getting it worn down will be phenomenal for us, as he goes for a Scald, and that does 6, and I'm like, okay, one more of these will put me into Wimp Out range, which let me go into something that can handle this. And so I decided to go for a Taunt. I could have gotten up a second layer of Spikes there. That might have been the better play, but is what it is. We decide to taunt this thing so it can't recover. He actually goes for the Ice Beam, revealing another move on this thing. Not really a surprise when I Grass type is a Rowlet. I go into Little Buzzer here. I'm like, okay, well, I want Spikes, I want Webs up, and ideally Rocks. I want all three of my hazards up nice and quickly. As he switches out of his Shellos and he goes into Don't Love his Hippo. Sets up Sand, going to do a little bit of chip damage to us. And I will say right now that we did DC in the next couple of turns. And so if you're seeing a bit of an odd recreation, he clicked Roar and it kept roaring me into the Cutie Fly in the next couple of turns. So there will be a little recreation here. I go into Motorhead as he withdraws and goes into his Shellos, I do believe. Okay, so the recreation comes a little bit later. As he comes in, and this Shellos is not a switch into a Giga Drain. So it takes a nice fat chunk. It's going to get chipped down. It's got sand damage. It's got toxic damage. Like it's not looking good at this point. And I'm like, well, I could stay in. I don't want to risk the speed tie or the potential for this, so I just go into Jazz Hands. Jazz Hands doesn't do a whole lot this game, considering this mon is actually his only special attacker that he brought, apart from Larvesta, and then Jazz Hands really doesn't want to be taking bug moves anyway, as he fires off an Ice Beam, and he gets this thing, and this thing gets kinda low. Sorry for a bit of lag there. He decides to switch out. I'm just going to be clicking moves here to stop him recovering. So he switches out into his Larvesta, gets caught in the webs. I throw up a Wish, and I'm just like, well, I predicted the switch. This thing was going to come in. I wanted to get my check to this nice and healthy, which is Motorhead, as you can see. I got old Ace of Spades here. As he just goes for the U-turn, which was predicted. That's his best move versus a Drowsy anyway. It gives him the momentum on the pretty obvious switch. But now I get to see what his actual switch into this thing, and it's the Alola. And this thing is terrifying because I kind of just have to give him a mon here. Because although he's stuck in the sticky web, I don't quite outpace. So I decided to switch out here. I go into Streamline. I figure it's the most expendable mon on the team at this point. He does end up going for the crunch and taking us out, and that is the first kill of the game, going the way of Tony here. As if I can find to take it off the layout, as I go into Cutie Fly, because I figure Cutie Fly can eat up any one hit from this thing and kill it off with a Moonblast. And I'm not going to play any games with this mon. I just go straight for the Moonblast. It's if I tried to get Triggy and predict the Hippo and go for a Toxic, and he goes for a couple of double edges, then I'm just kind of in a bad place. As you can see, Moonblast does a whole lot to this Hippo. Cutie Fly is actually kind of powerful. I switch out of Little Buzzer here as going to Jazz Hands, and this is where all the raw shenanigans happened. I switched out, and I kept switching out, and he kept going into... he kept roaring me back into Cutie Fly. So he's going to continuously click Stealth Rocks over and over again as we keep switching back into Cutie Fly, because I was taking the rocks and the Sandstorm damage. As you can see, my Berry Juice does pop. So we're just trying to get back to the point where it was Cutie Fly basically got worn down because it kept getting worn in. And this turn I decided to stay in the actual game, go for a Toxic, predicting that Roar again, because I don't want this thing to sit here and roar in front of me. As he actually does go for the Earthquake. This did happen in the actual battle as well, and that does not a whole lot. It still leaves me with one rock switch in. Afterwards, I did have Defog on my Cutie Fly or Rowlet. No, it was Defog on Cutie Fly. And that was sort of as in case Shelmet got like 3 layers of spikes up or something and rocks. But I was never clicking Defog this turn. As I now switched into my Drowsy, he's taken a lot of toxic damage here. And you'll see him actually start slacking off as I go into my Cutie Fly here, just to make sure he lasts long enough, because obviously Raw, it would happen a lot quicker than having to wait another turn to switch out. But yeah, sitting here while this is playing out in front of you, I will start talking to you about the game plan that I have here. And so looking at the mons that he has left, he is going to have the recreation will end when this hippo goes down. So he's going to have 5 mons still left. He's going to have Drulba with no sand. He's a very weakened Shellos, a Shelmet, an Alolan Rat, and a Larvesta. I know that Drulba is 100% walled by my what's it called? Sandygast. Sorry, I'm blanking there. Shellos, well, anything on my team is faster than it and can take it down in one hit. As you'll see, our Cutie Fly does faint to the rocks, unfortunately. So we have 4 mons left. Rowlet can kind of click buttons. Bard is probably the most expendable member of the team. Even though it outspeeds everything, it's I kind of need it pretty healthy for the Alola Rat, because obviously my other 3 mons, like Dodo, is a lot more frail than Rowlet, and my 2 Eviolite users that I have left, they both are weak to its crunch. So Boto here is kind of my answer to that Alola Rat. And that's kind of scary because it's weak to rocks and rocks are up, which means that it could come down to a 50-50. But other than that, I know that the combination of Sandygast and Dodo can clean the rest of his team quite comfortably besides that Alola Rat. You'll see here that he actually goes into Shellos, so we start roosting and exchanging like hidden power fighting. That is because Shellos in the original battle actually fainted to Cutie Fly a few turns earlier, and we kind of forgot about that. But so after all this, might actually just skip a turn here. Oh no, what have I done? Okay, we are back, and as you can see here, we decided that Shellos being at that low HP was not going to matter for the battle. If it got down to it and Shellos was his only mon left, we would just award the kill to Cutie Fly as it happened in the actual battle. As we decided to switch out, because it was originally a double down, we just both decided to switch on the same turn. As I go into Dodo because Scarf Dodo was very free versus his team unless he went Alola Rat, and that thing was way too important to him to risk. As he goes into Shelmet and I click Brave Bird, and that thing is blown back into the next century. As he goes into his Drillbur here, and although I could get a lot of damage off with a Brave Bird, I cannot risk the spin at this point. So I just go into Sandygast as he tries to spin, and we block it. And that's the situation that I predicted when we were building this team. As he goes into Gone, as he doesn't know that I am packing the Ancient Power yet. I go for Stealth Rocks thinking that I want this thing to... this thing could potentially be a problem. He decides to go for Flame Charge as kind of a last-ditch effort, hoping that Earth Power is my best way to hit him. Basically, he needs a lot. As I just whip out the Ancient Power here, and Sandygast is doing the finest of work this game as it bops the Larvesta. Hippo did go down... The Larvesta is gone. So it is now a 4-on-4. And this rat comes out. And as I talked about before, Drowsy is the most expendable member of this team at the moment. I have no crunch resist, so I'm going to go straight into Jazz Hands as he does click crunch. Now, yeah, you'll see it fall onto the crunch as he goes for that, and that does about 1,000 damage to Drowsy, because Drowsy's kind of fat, especially with the Eviolite it's holding this game, but not physically, and not when Alola Rat's doing it. As you can see, I go into Bowtie, and Bowtie is my answer to this thing, and it comes down to kind of a 50-50. He has a chance to kill with Sucker, or he guaranteed kills with, I think he had Return. As I clicked Bravebird, he went for Return instead of Sucker. It was a 50-50, because if I got a Roost off there and he clicked Sucker, then I guaranteed live the next one. And that Alola Rat is down, and that is pretty much going to be GG for us. Tony does not know, but we can kind of clean up his team. Whoops, Shelmet died a while back. I'm doing a great job at this live editing thing. So he only has the Drilbur. I think this is Roxy from memory. Yeah, that's Roxy. Watch it be Groundsy now. Yeah, Roxy. Okay, so he has Drilbur against the world, as I have forgotten to take another mon off the layout. Where are you, Drowsy? So Roxy does about 2 damage to me. He goes for an Earthquake, hoping for like a super mega crit. I know that I can live any crit from this range, because he only does 7. I go for the Giga Drain, and that should just almost seal the game for us. But it takes us back up to 16, well out of any crit range. He goes for the Rock Slide, which is his only play at this point, is to hope for about 10 flinches in a row, and then hope that I somehow miss Bravebird with my last 2 mons. But Sandygast is going to wrap up the Drilbur, and you'll see, even though we left that Shellos alive in the recreation, Sandygast is going to be able to wipe that up. And that will be a 3-0 win against Tony. Apologies for the fact that we DC'd. It did make this battle. It was actually a really good battle. Really well fought by Tony. But we managed to pick up the 3-0 win, and that was phenomenal. It was a great way to bounce back after beating Matt last week. Next week we are playing Zombie, and he is a phenomenal battler in Little Cup. He's ever since we started the APA Little Cup stuff with the first 2 seasons of Showdown and now into this, he's been very strong. Not the easiest to beat by any means, but I am hoping that we can pull out another strong dub, keep this winning form alive, even though we had that bit of a hiccup against Matt. But until then, guys, I shall see you all next time.